I'm gonna get really good at Zoom by the end of this.
Paul, I think the original meeting invite was set for 6:30 instead of 7. So I think 40 minutes lapsed at 7:20.
Yeah, it was my understanding that I was using the account that didn't have a limit, so it just took me off guard. But thank you for everyone being so agile. Everybody's so agile. We just need to get Henry back. Okay, I want everybody to get a good laugh out of this. I sent the email to everyone on the call, except, guess who? Henry. So he's just adding. So I'm too old for this job. I'm so too old for this job.
Okay. Here
All right, Henry, I'm so sorry. Welcome back.
Paula, you need a tech person with you.
I do. I do.
Can you share the screen?
Oh my gosh, so we have to do that again. Okay, everybody.
Didn't it used to be we could leave a class after 15 minutes if the professor didn't show?
Yep. All right,
Okay, here we are.
try that.
Okay. I think I was getting ready to talk about the cars, finish the cars. Okay, this is business as usual for cars. And this is the reduction from trip diversion and mass transit improvements. This is for 1 mile per gallon increase in internal combustion engines. Next, this is the effect of putting electric cars on the road. And then finally, this is the power of switching over to clean energy. Next, we have the medium and heavy duty trucks. The Union of Concerned Scientists has done a literature review and has determined that you can get a 50% reduction in doubling mileage in heavy duty and medium duty vehicles by improving the engines, the drivetrains, the aerodynamics, and the tire and wheel design. And either with hydrogen fuel or electricity, you can get at least another 50% reduction. So we figure that you get a 75% reduction in medium and heavy duty trucks. Then in the various other areas, rail transit will be converted to electric power locomotives. Agriculture, we don't have a whole lot in this area. Natural gas distribution systems have a somewhat significant impact, and that will reduce as the use of natural gas is reduced. Waste management strategies would be composting, recycling, and landfill gas recovery. Wastewater is really pretty small, but there are things that you can do there. And industrial processes are dealt with on a case-by-case basis. But process emissions are few and far between in the 5-county area. That is, those process emissions that are not power plants that are included in electricity or having to do with waste management. The only municipality in the seminar series that has any significant process waste GHG emissions is Plymouth. And they have the Plymouth Covanta incinerator and the ArcelorMittal plate iron and steel manufacturing facility. But there are no process emissions of any significance in the rest of the municipalities. So for those minor sources, industrial processes, wastewater, solid waste, etc., this is how they tail down. And the result is that without even cleaning up the grid, switching over to wind and solar, you can get a 50% reduction in emissions simply by implementing building efficiency standards, increasing the miles per gallon in internal combustion engine cars, and conversion to EVs, and control of medium and heavy duty trucks and other small sources, as we've described. So even before you clean the grid, and that's not chronologically, but even before you clean the grid, you can get a 50% reduction. And a lot of this is the low-hanging fruit, the most inexpensive way to do it. The rest of the reduction has to be done through conversion to electricity. And you'll see here is the increase in electricity needed for, and here is the increase in electricity needed to power the heat pumps. And they're offset by the residential and commercial and industrial energy savings. So the result of growth in the area, and if there's growth, then you have to factor that in. That's a 3.6% decrease in the electrical demand in the area as you make this transition. Now, if growth occurs, then you will have an increase in electrical demand, but you won't have any significant increase in the emissions, and I'll explain that in a minute. The three strategies for cleaning the grid are photovoltaic solar, and these are three different types of solar arrays, wind energy, and there's more than enough wind energy offshore of the United States, and a great deal of that is in the mid-Atlantic Gulf, mid-Atlantic coast, and there's a great deal more that is needed to power the country at this time. It's just that we've got to get out there and get the wind turbines built. Finally, energy storage is much more effective than some people would let you think, that it can even out the wind and solar in a way that will make really reliable power from renewable energy. The result of all of this is a tailing down of the emissions between 2019 and 2050 from 43 million tons down to really minimal amounts. And that would be even offset by the growth of trees and other biological processes. So with all of that, I wanted to get back to a typical community in our area. And what I've chosen is the Westchester area, which is made up of 6 municipalities. And they have this number of people in it, and housing units, 38,000. You can see the numbers here. And the question is, for the Westchester area, how much do you have to do each year in order to achieve the goal by 2050? You would have to, let's take, for instance, electrical efficiency in buildings for residential. 1,505 residences, or 4% each year, would need to get new energy efficient appliances and lighting. Now, they're not, you're not going to do it all at once in a house, but gradually over a 25-year period, there will be replacement of all of the appliances and the lighting. And if we replace it with efficient electrical equipment, we can achieve that. Another example is conversion of the vehicle fleet to electric cars. It would require that 2,650 vehicles that are EVs be bought per year. Well, we're already buying 5,000 vehicles per year, approximately, in the Westchester area. So this is eminently doable, and it will make the difference in achieving the reductions by 2050. Finally, ask about public transit, improvements of public transit. If 220 people out of the population decided that they would like to use public transit each year, increase of that amount, that would be sufficient to achieve the 0.3% reduction in vehicle miles traveled each year. So we've put together a model which takes into account all of this, and I'd like to turn to that for the remaining time. But before that, are there any questions about the presentation so far?
There was a question, Henry, about how DVRPC calculates and the difference between transportation and highway that got also asked on Monday.
The Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission is primarily a transportation planning group. That's their specialty. And what they do is they set up a model, a transportation model, which is based on interviews throughout the region to determine where people start their trips and where they end them. And they get a good picture of that, and then they load it onto the network of roads and determine what the flow would be. And they determine from that what the vehicle miles traveled within each municipality would be. For rail transit and bus transit, they use the SEPTA numbers and incorporate them in as to ridership.
Henry, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Doug and then Mike.
Is the conversion of residential solar part of this or a separate study, both for, let's say, space heating, and then of course there's domestic hot water as solar residentially? Is that included? I don't see it here.
The conversion of residential solar?
Conversion of, yeah, the existing oil or natural gas or whatever the houses have now to solar
That would be,
PV.
well, it would be converted to, it would be, the heating would be converted to heat pumps. And then that could be powered either by solar or fossil fuel, and increasingly by solar as and wind as the grid is cleaned up.
You're talking about the grid solar. I'm talking about residential solar on the rooftop. Rooftop solar, EV, PV, and rooftop domestic hot water solar systems.
I think when you look at the actual tool, which we'll get to in a minute, Doug, you'll see what is and isn't included.
Okay.
This tool primarily focuses on efficiency and replacement, but there is a section that he'll show you about transitioning away from fossil fuels to renewables. And I'm pretty sure it's embedded there, but it is broken out at the same level of detail.
Okay.
And all solar would be included in that.
Right.
Mike,
But
you had
it's
a
not
question?
differentiated. And I think Mike had a question.
My therapist would sometimes say, would you like some cheese with your wine? I have problems with some of the assumptions. Henry, has anybody ever questioned this? The assumption that we will replace our internal combustion engines with vehicles that have average 35 mpgs seems to me to be challenged by, what is it, Ford's announcement that they're not even going to make sedans anymore because F-100s or F-150s are selling like hotcakes. I think that the changes projected for the heavy-duty trucking industry are really, really optimistic, and I kind of work in that sector before I retired. To say that it's eminently doable for people that 50% of the vehicles purchased will be EVs is challenged, I think, by the sparsity of models in the EV sector. I'm sure there'll be more of them, but I looked at a Bolt today and it doesn't compare to the Prius I'm just about wearing out. So where do the assumptions come from, and
Well,
does anybody else get a feeling of unreality?
Well, let me address that. I have a Prius too. It gets 50 miles a gallon. And when I replace it with another Prius, a hybrid, it's going to get 50 miles a gallon, and I'm going to plug it in every night. So but beyond that, let me address that, because that's part of what
I don't mean to rain on the parade, but thank you very much.
Oh, no. This is very reasonable. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to start sharing the model. Okay, so in here, and I will increase this so you can see it. Can you see that? Okay. Now, for instance, you're asking about, let's see, conversion to electric vehicles. I share your concern about that, and there's going to have to be a real change in the way we look nationally at what's going on. And we can do just so much at the municipal level. But the time is going to come when people have to face the fact that we've got to address these issues. And we are all waiting for that at this time. So let's take a look at what, well, first of all, I'll describe the model just a little bit. Here are the assumptions that I put into the model for residential and commercial and mobile sources. Now you'll recognize that for new efficient replacement housing, there's a 45% reduction. If you don't think you can meet that, make it 40 and see what changes. So we assume that there will be a 4% increase in thermal efficiency. If you think that is a 4% turnover and a 24% increase in efficiency. If you don't think we can do 4% a year, you can plug that into the model and it will tell you the difference. If you don't think you can meet 24% reduction when you do that, you can plug that in too. So it's infinitely adjustable so that you can determine what you think is realistic. So let me just show here. For instance, what if you can't convert 3.5% of the electric vehicles per year? Well, if you, let's say you could only convert 1.5. So you can see what that's going to do. It's going to increase the it's going to increase the car and light duty truck amount, and you're not going to make it. So let's put it up to 3.5 again and see if what will happen if you cannot convert renewables at all. Let's take it down to 0. And that's what you're going to experience. You're going to have the same graph due to efficiency and conversion to EVs and heat pumps that you have here, but you won't have the solar. So that will show you the effect there. So you can take any assumptions, make any assumptions you want concerning these strategies. And the model will tell you what to expect as far as the drawdown in emissions in the area between 2019 and 2050. As you can see, we're doing this for the Westchester area. But if we wanted to do it for all of the 5 counties in southeastern Pennsylvania, we just plug in a new number here, and that'll give you the same for southeast Pennsylvania. And if you wanted it for another municipality, let's say 226, that'll give you Springfield Township. Now this may look strange. This is Springfield Township, Bucks County. So if you want to, let's see. Okay.
So Henry,
Yes.
David's mentioning in the chat that these seem arbitrary. Can you say a little bit about how you came up with these percents?
I plugged in year by year the emissions from 2019 out to 2050. Use the DVRPC model and ask myself what would be the emission reductions in residential, in commercial, mobile source, and all the other areas. And plugged in the emission reductions that would be achieved. That's the long answer there. So I open it up to questions for people concerning this, but this is something that you can use to determine, based on what you think the emission reductions possible are, whether we can achieve the reduction of basically 100% of greenhouse gases by 2050. Paula?
I think I would just add, and then in terms of how some of these percentages are, especially around efficiency, these are the estimates that are given by the American, the National Association, that's got an acronym ACEEEE, and their studies about what you can expect from new buildings, from existing buildings, from lighting replacements. So some of that information is based on the work done at the national level about what could be achieved in the housing efficiency side of things.
It's based on that research. And for instance, I talked with one of the experts in this area, Drew McDowell, who is an expert in housing. And I've talked to Dennis Rowan concerning EVs, and obtained what I think are reasonable numbers. And what I think it shows is that if we have the will to make the changes as a people, we can do that with the technology that is available at this time.
Is there a page of footnotes that shows the sources of the assumptions?
You can go through the descriptions here, year by year, and the modeling assumptions here, and the parameters.
Okay, thanks.
And if you need more information, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. But if we have the will, we have the technical capability to achieve this.
Is that why most of the curves seem to tip down in 2021 at about the time of an inauguration?
Well, that's not the reason. But
I'm sorry to be political.
But that's, quite frankly, with the present administration that does not believe in global, in climate change, and has done everything to prevent any action, if it is not replaced with someone who wishes to address climate change, it's going to be very difficult. But that's off the record. Other questions?
I have a question. The question I've got has to do with a stakeholder meeting with implementers, and thinking that I would far prefer somebody who is comfortable with this, presenting this to our township manager and department heads. And I wondered if you, Henry, or somebody else was willing to do that. Should we get a township department head workshop going?
Well, I'd be happy to assist in that. But Mark Connolly made a good comment on Monday night. And he said, this is all very complicated, but it's a lot simpler when you look at a specific situation. And for instance, with municipalities, the greatest emission in most municipalities is the gasoline consumption from primarily police vehicles and other code enforcement vehicles, but primarily the police vehicles, because they operate 24 hours around the clock. And then the next 3 or 4 facilities are the major facilities, and after that, the emissions are fairly insignificant. So as complicated as this is, when you sit down with the municipality, you get down to relatively simple, straightforward sets of things to move uh, things to move forward on.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, our police chief, we met with him once before, is moving to hybrids. You know, he's getting the first hybrid, but he's saying that there is no such thing at this point as a workable electric vehicle for the police force. Have you seen any such thing?
Well, there are workable electric vehicles, but in this time, in the next 5 to 7 years,
I mean, for a police fleet.
Yes,
Yes.
but in this period, hybrid vehicles are a very good way to go because they're 3 times as efficient as gasoline vehicles, simply because gasoline vehicles are very inefficient in converting heat power to actual mechanical power. And they need to have their computers and radios and everything on 24/7 and all the time, even when they're just idling. A lot of gasoline in police cars is spent in vehicles idling. And in my Prius, when the battery is charged up, the engine stops. And then when it needs more power, it starts up again. And so hybrids are a very good way to go in the medium term.
Henry, can I jump in just real quick?
Doug, I'm going to let you jump in, but I just want to give you a heads up. I've gotten the notice again. We're going to be signed out in 6 minutes. So
Goodness.
speak up and then we'll wrap up.
Okay, just to clarify, all vehicles come from the factory the same way, and they're retrofitted. There are companies that specifically designed to retrofit any vehicle to be a police or any emergency vehicle. So they don't come from Ford or Chevy already fitted out. It's the companies are professionally outfitters, they're called. So you can take a Tesla Model X, so you could take a Kona, you can take almost any large SUV and you can convert it to a police vehicle. I'm working with Schuylkill on that, so just to clarify, people think that they come from the manufacturer already fitted out. That's not true.
I think that's really helpful, and I do think we'll have a lot more to learn about our vehicle fleet, and both Doug and Dennis will be sharing later on in the course about our program on that. So I want to say that I hope everyone will now take seriously that you've got this tool. You'll write to me if you can't open it or the toggles don't work, and we'll try again. And that this will be part of the process as we're setting goals. You can measure, well, if we set our goal for X% or Y%, what will the impact be? And I encourage you to also consider if your team would like to have a private session. Henry said he would have open office hours on request, so that if you're playing around, you can work with him specifically on that. At the very beginning, I gave a heads up to everyone that I've gotten some helpful feedback, and that I will be requesting feedback probably tomorrow evening to ask you over the next couple days. And we're going to try to adjust the program and take a little bit of the time pressure off, maybe take away those additional sessions and instead integrate those into the weekly sessions and kind of push things off a little bit. But I'm still negotiating with my speakers since I had everything set for the next 6 weeks, so I'm rearranging as I can. But please do respond with your feedback, and I will have open office hours myself next week if you want to give me some personal feedback. We prefer to say it than write it, or do both. So keep an eye out for that. And otherwise, there is now a folder in your, and if I don't get cut off in time, I will I'm going to stop your screen sharing, Henry. And I'm going to share my screen just to show everybody where they can find the materials from tonight's session. So this is our beautiful big folder. It's called Clean Energy Planning Series. Just to remind you, your folders are in your county folders. There's a new folder called Bulletin Board where people can put ideas and suggestions, collaborations, things they would like to do, which is something that came up from the end of our energy sharing. So energy literacy program. So I hope you'll consider taking a look at that. But what is here now is something called Strategic Analysis Model. That's the folder, and the drawdown PowerPoint there is there, and Henry's PowerPoint is there. So feel free to share that, and I will be uploading tonight's recording and Monday night's recording if I can figure it out. And we will have those available so that if you're interested, you can also get access to